Hello, everyone.
Hello, Paris.
My name is Rachel, and with Joachim, we worked at Spotify together, and also I have worked at Airbus. Airbus and Spotify. Those are very different companies, right? Planes, playlists, not really apples to apples.
Yeah. So, one is a consumer tech scale-up,
The other is an industrial, massive player.
and one thrives on agility and speed.
The other focus on stability and safety, obviously.
One is software first,
The other operates in a highly regulated physical world.
and one can iterate freely in software, move fast and break things.
And the other operates in a world where failure is not an option, really.
So, obviously different, right? But let us tell you two stories. So, the first one, imagine waking up every Monday morning to a playlist that feels like it was made just for you. It's songs, 30 songs that you've never listened to before, but there's a high chance that you will like. So that's Discover Weekly. And this popular and loved feature of Spotify actually almost never saw the light of day. It had to avoid getting killed. So back in 2014, Spotify had around 60 million users and had already transformed the music industry. But the fight was far from over. Pandora, with its radio-style offering, was winning the US, the biggest music market in the world. And tech giants like Google, Amazon, and Apple were launching their own services. So Spotify really had to continue to innovate to maintain their market leadership. Fortunately, Spotify's product strategy was based on real insights. For example, on how their audience segmented. So we knew that we were performing really well among so-called lean-forward users who really got the search and play paradigm. But we were not doing nearly as well with the so-called lean-back users who didn't want to search for music. They don't want to curate playlists. They just want to press play and listen to music that they love. So qualitative research even showed that these type of users reverted back to Pandora, our biggest competitor, when it came to effortless engagement. So this became a strategic focus for us. How can we help people discover new music effortlessly? So that meant that we stopped other big bets that we were doing, and we almost didn't do any new feature development for the lean-forward users, but instead redirected the resources and the people to solve this core problem. But this didn't mean that we did new projects and features handed down from the top. No, it meant sharing this strategic context and giving the teams problems to solve. Because the engineers are working daily with enabling technology. They are in a unique position to understand what is possible. How can we come up with innovative solutions that the stakeholders and users don't even know to ask for? So, two engineers were not content with the existing discovery solutions. They thought that they caused too much friction for these lean-back users. So based on an idea from a Hack Week project that they had done, they created playlists with new music based on the listening history of the user. And these were updated weekly. So they got together with a product manager and designer to explore this idea. But they didn't write a spec or build a polished feature. Instead, they worked together to tackle the 4 product risks. Is it valuable? Will people actually use it and keep using it? Is it usable? Will they find it? Will they understand it if we just drop it in their library? Is it feasible? Can we really generate millions of playlists with the tech that we have available? And last but not least, is it viable? Would it backfire like Apple Music's U2 album drop when they pushed music into every user's library without their consent? This had happened very recently and resulted in a big backlash and bad press for Apple. So it was a very valid concern. On top of this, even the CEO and co-founder thought that this was too risky, and he wanted to kill the feature, at least not give them any more funding and resources. But still, he trusted the team enough to keep exploring and make the decision guided by evidence. So that's what they did. They quickly put together a prototype that they were happy with, and they quietly released it at Spotify. And it started spreading virally inside the organization. People went on Slack and asking, wow, this is such a killer feature. Who's building this? What is this? So that gave them more confidence to do a full employee release where they asked for feedback in surveys. And people really loved it. It's as if my secret music twin put it together. Everything in it is so good. So that's a pretty good feedback. So what's next? Well, testing it with users. And at Spotify, the team didn't need permission to do that. The fact is that they were encouraged to test things early and often through A/B testing with slices of the user base. So they decided to test it with a percentage of the users, and the results, off the charts. Really strong engagement, strong retention, great survey ratings, and importantly, no backlash like the YouTube situation. And the buzz on Twitter was amazing. It's scary how well Spotify Discover Weekly playlists know me. Like former lover who lived through a near-death experience with me well. Now that's an algorithm that really nails it, right? And with something live in our users' hands, we also finally had real signals. So now we could look at the data, run interviews, learn and improve. Everything from the artwork to the length of the playlist to how often should it be updated and some content hiccups, let's say. So just when we were ready for a bigger rollout, we hit a snag. Unfortunately, Discover Weekly was built around a single user, Spotify, with 75 million of shared playlists. And they changed every week on the same day. It just didn't scale. But fortunately, through the success from our experiments, we knew that we had a hit on our hands. So we had a high integrity business case to really justify the investment of fixing the things, of re-architecting the system. And that's what we did. So we spent a couple of months with lots of teams and making sure that it really scaled, and then we could finally release it to everyone. So it was a success with more than 1 billion tracks streamed in 10 weeks. Huge thing for Spotify at the time, and probably still. And people even started looking forward to Mondays, got excited and started crying a little because I realized it's Monday and Spotify is making me a new Discover Weekly. And even one of Pandora's founder, our biggest competitors, took to Twitter to say, okay, everyone is right, Discover Weekly is absolutely perfect. Wow, that's a success. Let's hear about another one.
Cool. Let me tell you another story. I'm going to tell you a $10 billion story. So let's talk about Airbus. We're in 2015. Airbus is almost turning 50. There has been decades where they're playing with the only competitor, Boeing, sharing the skies together, having billions in revenue. So all was good. But things were changing, and they were changing super fast. First, the latest A380 program, that was like a technical prodigy, was a massive commercial flop. The A320neo, that was supposed to save the business of the company, was super delayed. There was like competitors everywhere, from Asia and so on. Even airlines were turning into competitors when it comes to maintenance services providers. And not to mention Elon Musk in the background, completely shaking the aerospace industry. So yeah, Airbus knew how to do aircraft, but that was not enough anymore. So they had to change a new business model. So they made a bet, and the bet was data. Data, in the age of digitalization, is gold. And Airbus was kind of seated on a golden mine. Each airplane, when they fly, generates 10 gigabytes of data per flight hours. They fly 90% of the time around their life. That spans across 25 years. So that's a huge, insane amount of data. Golden mine. No, not really. I would say rather data maze, because the data was very fragmented, scattered into siloed organization, different formats. So very, very difficult to gather, very, very difficult to exploit, and to do something with it. Untapped, but very difficult to use. And that's exactly a very nice, complex problem to choose. So to tackle that, the leaders were smart enough not to go the traditional way like launching big project, putting big investment, doing big upfront design of the solution. Instead of that, they did a deal with Palantir to create a data lake that was big enough and strong enough to gather all the data, to clean it and to use it. And then they gathered a team of 25 to 30 very talented people, and they gave them a mission. They gave the mission that was very simple. Go figure it out, how to turn data into services that airlines would buy and that would generate 10 billion in recurring revenue. Easy peasy, right? Okay, so what we did in the team was to say, okay, let's go directly where people are. Let's go to the hangars, to the final assembly line, to the tarmac. Let's see that. And let's partner with people who suffered from pain points, airlines. So this is where EasyJet came in as a partner, as a co-sparring partner, I would say. So engineers went everywhere, working the flight ops, the technicals, the mechanos, and so on. And here they found it. The juicy problem. The unplanned maintenance. Hey! It's the silent killer of every airline profitability, right? So when something breaks in an airplane, the airplane is landed. But an airplane that is landed costs thousands of dollars per hour it's landed. So it's a very costly problem. And also, if you are very, very lucky, your airplane gets grounded to your home airport. But most of the time, no. Most of the time, it happens somewhere in the world where you don't have spare parts, you don't have technicians, you don't have anything. And to deal with that, airlines were doing like using very complex different systems, a lot of manual operation. Logistics was crazy. It was slow. It was costly. It was painful. It was a perfect problem to tackle. So the mission was it. We found it. Let's make AOG as predictable as possible to reduce the numbers of hours to wait for maintenance. Because if we can calculate and anticipate where the pain point, the crash gonna happen, then we maybe can be sending parts to them, or we can adjust the route of the aircraft to come nearby an home airport. So minimize that, make money, and so on. They worked together, and they very rapidly started to do algorithms and prototypes, testing their prototype. Are we capable to predict it? Yes. Okay, are we capable to predict in that condition? Yes. And so on and so forth. Working directly with the techies guys, they achieved to have the first predictive maintenance algorithm. They tested it. One aircraft, several aircraft, it worked. Yay. And very rapidly, within 1 month or 2 months, they were able to put something in the hands of airlines to try it. So that's super cool. But that's not cool enough to make it a real product. You have to deal with others' situation, like how do you scale up to thousands of aircraft? How do you scale up to multiple data streams? How do you manage the very painful and complicated certification process? How do you manage mixed fleets? Airlines, they don't just have Airbus, they have also Boeings and other companies, so you have to deal with that. So, because they have demonstrated that it works, Then Airbus made the investment. We strengthened the platform, we invested in infrastructure, automation, and so on, and we really built a platform that was really capable to support the traffic. In 2017, Skywise was presented at Paris Le Bourget, not as a new feature or as a cool product, but as a new business stream for Airbus. Success! Today, Skywise fuels 10,000 aircraft, airlines across the world. It really demonstrates that it's really a platform. It demonstrates also something else, that Airbus was not anymore just building aircraft. They were capable to turn data and to turn digital and produce digital applications and services and to really change the game.
Cool. So, two very different companies, but after listening to these stories, did you notice any similarities? Raise your hand if you noticed any similarities between these two companies. Not that many. Yeah, some. Okay. Blurt it out quickly. What did you notice? What was similar?
Power team with problem solving.
Yeah, good. Gold star.
Experimentation.
Yeah, experimentation. Great. Yeah. So let us tell you what we saw. First of all, they both embody the core principles of what's called the product operating model, or the product model for short, or POM for even shorter. And product model companies are different versus traditional companies in how they answer three fundamental questions. How do we decide which problems to solve? Or product strategy. How do we solve these problems? Product discovery. And how do we build, deploy, and scale solutions? Product delivery. And Spotify and Airbus was actually quite similar in all of these. So for instance, when it comes to strategy, they were both powered by insights. Product strategy wasn't built in the boardroom through internal politics. It came from real data, customer research, understanding emerging technology and industry trends. It didn't flow top-down, but could come from anywhere in the organization. At Spotify, it came from teams doing live data prototypes and user research and discovery. At Airbus, it came from people on the tarmac. Whoops. Also, they both prioritize transparency. The reasoning behind product decisions, such as what bets are we making, why, what's the data behind them, were shared openly, and this built alignment and trust. And this also enabled a deliberate focus. They didn't try to solve everything at once. Instead, they focused on key impact goals and had the organization align around them. So it wasn't really about having a perfect plan. Strategy wasn't. It was more about a system that could adapt and learn.
What is also striking on both stories is the way they managed product discovery. It was something that was like the team were really tasked to solve a problem and they really owned the outcome and they were really free to do it the way they feel it was better and to start de-risking the project very, very soon. Discovery was not something you do before the real work starts, it was the real work. And they both, in both cases, they work with end users, they practice on themselves, they tested on themselves. They created fast learning cycle loops to test, iterate, prove, test, iterate, fix. And this is really it. This is what we want to achieve. Go fast, with depth, and with relevance, really.
Yeah, and when it comes to delivery, both Spotify and Airbus invested continuously and deliberately, strongly in infrastructure that made it possible to deliver value continuously. So instead of waiting for a perfect launch, they did small and frequent releases. Spotify rolled it out gradually to live users. Airbus did the in-hangar testing with mechanics who had access to early versions of the Skywise tools long before any big announcement was made. And the teams owned delivery end-to-end. There was no build it and throw it over the wall. the same people who designed the tools and shipped them stayed with them, understood what works, what doesn't work, and kept on iterating. And this is the point. Success doesn't come from, getting it right in one big launch. It comes from doing early and often releasing in small increments, learning, and trusting teams to own the outcomes. And Spotify did this to serve millions of users with music, and Airbus did it to make aviation smarter and faster.
And safer.
Same mindset, different attitude. Sorry. So, while they on the surface appear very different, Spotify and Airbus both embraced these core principles of the product model. And the product model, in summary, to us, is all about giving people problems and a fail-friendly environment with cross-functional teams where it's okay to fail and throw things away as long as we learn. But to do that, we need to have enough slack. We need clear success metrics, ideally guided by an insights-based product strategy, and a feedback infrastructure that gives us feedback loops for user testing. Then awesome new stuff will come out in the end. But innovation can't be forced. Just enabled, encouraged, and supported. Managers can't make innovation happen, but they can create an environment to support it and stop it from being killed. So the million-dollar question then, I guess, is how do we create such an environment? Well, to start with, there is no single blueprint, but there are shared principles, as we could see in these two stories. When they are applied to different contexts, we will get different practices.
One of those practices that are very useful is Agile. It's a big part of it, but it really helps people to deliver fast, very continuously and very early, but that doesn't help you really, because it's not just about shipping a lot. If you ship a lot of things that doesn't work, it doesn't make sense, it's pointless. So you need to go beyond Agile. And to do that, we need to have teams that really solve problems, that we need to give them the freedom to really discover that. And not just executing. We are better than just delivering a roadmap list and features list. We need to create an impact on the market.
But empowerment or autonomy isn't enough on its own. It needs alignment. We help the teams get it right by setting a direction, sharing with them strategic context, giving them problems to solve, based on data and real insights, a real product strategy.
We wanted to tell you those stories because we wanted to show you that the product operating model is not just something fancy for fancy tech companies like startup in UDIs or Silicon Valley unicorns. Any enterprise, any company that really needs to tackle complex problems with smart people, they can really use those principles to really deliver value and change the game. And this is really the message we wanted to give you today.
Yeah.
We are about to finish that talk on time, yay! But first we wanted to ask you a question. Maybe you will ask us a question. First, what if you, in your company, you decided to make that shift, to change for the product operating model? How does that look like in your company? We would be very, very keen together to hear about that. So you can find us after the conference. Come and tell us. We will be super happy to learn about that.
Or find us on LinkedIn
that
or
works as
whatever
well.
your
Less
preference is. So thank you.